Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sharing a kind of 2-for-1 idea using some Mama Elephant products today. So these are some little agenda stamps that I've had sitting in my stash for a little while. I haven't used them yet, so I really wanted to play around with them. So I'm showing you an idea that I use to make some nice, quick and easy cards. So I have the little hamster agenda. I have the mini everyday messages, and I have the star grid window. All of these products are from Mama Elephant. So I've gone ahead and stamped out all of my little hamster agenda images, apart from that little guy that had the candy cane and the Santa hat. He's obviously a little bit more of a Christmas image, and I do love that about these little agenda sets. They have these little Christmas images in them as well, so you can mix and match them for Christmas cards. So for colouring my hamsters, I am colouring them E99 and E97. They're very small images, so I'm keeping the colouring quite simple today, just 2 markers. And I'm only going to show you a couple on screen, and then I'll go ahead and colour all the rest off screen because it's all the same for every hamster. So the only thing that's different about them is their little accessories. So just going in a couple of times, a couple of coats, and blending out those markers. Once I'm done with their little heads, I'm going to do the kind of white parts of their body, and I'm using N0 and the colourless blender for that. So I want them to look white. I just want to give them a little bit of shading. And as I say, these images are very, very small. So although I've used quite a few of them, I think in total I've used 11 images on each card, so 22 little images. It doesn't take that long to colour them because they are tiny. And I try to keep my colour scheme, like just use the same colours for the different accessories, which you'll see here in a minute. So I've gone ahead and coloured all of those out, and now I'm just going to do their little accessories. And I'm using R14 and R12 for the little strawberries, the little hearts, possibly a couple of the other little things, I can't remember now. I actually coloured these last week and did the filming last week, and I've only just gotten around to kind of finishing these off. I think I said last time it's the school holidays here, so it's quite chaotic in my house. I have 3 children who definitely keep me on my toes. So trying to find time to sit in my craft room is a bit more difficult when the school holidays are on. So it takes a little while. So I've just gone in there with that green combination, which is YG05 and YG03. I've used that for the tops of the strawberries, and I'm using it for one of these balloons here. And I'll use it on a couple of the other things, like the little sweets that this little chubby guy in the corner is holding there. I think he's probably my favourite image. I think you call it candy in the States. It's sweets in the UK. In New Zealand, it's lollies. So lots of different names for the same thing, depending on where you live. But yeah, just colouring a few little bits and pieces in with that green combination. Then I'm going in with this kind of purpley combination, which is BV04 and BV02. And I'm doing one of the other balloons in that, and I'll do a few other bits and pieces. So as I say, I'm kind of just bringing out the same colours, and I will, it's a bit of a rainbow of colours. I've tried to use kind of a rainbow, kind of a softer rainbow though, not a really bright rainbow of colours. But I'm just going to use those on all of the images. So for my yellow combination, it's Y02 and Y00. And as I say, I will just go ahead and fill out all of these little images with these markers. That little guy who's holding the acorn, I used E53, E55, E57 and E59 for that, just to get the 2 different shades. But basically I'm just using 2 combinations because, as I say, the images are tiny. I don't think you really need to use too many colours, just a couple is good. I'm using BG10 for the little envelope there. And now I'll move on to this other set of images that I have. And just going to fill in all the different colours again. So that same brown combination, the E59 and E57. And then the E55 and the E53 for the top part of the paintbrush. using N6 to colour in the kind of little band around the paintbrush. BG10 and 11 for the little cup that this guy is holding. I love these little agenda images. I was a little unsure when I first came across them. I think the first one I ever bought was the little bunny agenda, which was very, very cute. And I was on the fence about using these little images because they are very small and it's quite hard to create a card out of tiny, tiny images. But then I discovered all the Mama Elephant dies that work so well with these little agenda images. So they have different, I think they call them grid panels, grid windows. So I've got a few of them now, and they really, really help to create a beautiful little card. And they're really easy to use. And this is one of my favorite techniques for these stamps. And what I like to do with them is to kind of make a 2-for-1 like I'm doing here today, because I find that you can use both the negative and positive parts of the die to create a card front. So I'm going to show you that here in a bit when we get onto it, but I'm just going to continue colouring in these little guys and make sure that I've filled in all the different accessories and images. I think I've gone through all of the colour combinations that I've used. I think the only other colour that I might have pulled in at some point was B01. But other than that, I've just stuck to those kind of different rainbow combinations that I used on the first part of the colouring. So yellows, I'll go through them again. Yellows are Y02 and Y00. Reds are R14 and R12. Purples, BV04 and BV02. I've used BG11 and BG10 for my kind of aqua blue colours. For this little guy's top hat, I'm using N8 and N6. I've also used a little bit of N2 on my kind of silvery coloured parts. YG05 and YG03 are for the greens. And then the browns, I've used E53, 55, 57 and 59. So once I've completed with colouring in all of these images, I will just mention that I did use a little bit of R20 for their cheeks, which was earlier on. But once I've finished colouring in all of these, I'll go ahead with my white Jelly Roll pen and just add some white highlight details, as I always like to do. Sometimes I forget to do this, but most of the time I bring out my white Sakura Jelly Roll pen and add a few highlights. I like the look that this gives. It's just a little added extra. Definitely something you could skip off if you're not into it, but it's just something I like to do. And then once I've done all of this kind of colouring, I will go ahead and fussy cut these images out. I do not have the coordinating dies, and yes, it's a lot of cutting, but I've said it before, I quite like cutting out images. I find it quite relaxing. I can kind of just switch off, zone out. Sometimes I listen to a podcast or watch something on YouTube while I'm doing it. Most of the time I just kind of relax and take it as a little bit of mindfulness, I suppose. So yeah, I really don't mind fussy cutting. I've said it before, sometimes I'll buy dies if the images are quite intricate and would be difficult to hand cut out. Or if I think that the dies are kind of a good deal and they're not too expensive. But in all honesty, I would prefer to spend my money on more stamps. So I tend to just fussy cut images out. And one other thing I've done here today is I've taken my black Sakura Jelly Roll pen and I'm adding some little details to the eyes. So I'll go ahead on all of them and just kind of go over their eyes just to kind of make them pop. So I've gone ahead and fussy cut those out, and now I've cut out that star grid window, and I've cut that from some MFT Pretty and Plaid paper. It's kind of a rainbow paper, but it's quite a soft rainbow. It's not very bright. So I'm going to use this one on this Fawn Sage cardstock, and then all of the cutout pieces, all of those little stars, I'm going to put on this. This is Concord and 9th Dove cardstock. I can't speak today. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stick this temporarily down, just using some low-tack tape, onto the card base so that I can stamp out the image, stamp out the sentiment exactly where I want it. So I'm going to put it in that middle star in the second row from the top, and I'm just going to, as I say, temporarily stick that card panel down so that I can figure out exactly where to stamp my sentiment. This comes from the mini everyday messages. And these little sentiments work really, really well with these little agenda. In fact, they're designed to work together with these little agenda stamp sets. Now I'm going to use that same kind of cover panel as a guide to know where to stick all of my little stars onto this grey panel. I'm hoping this makes sense. So I've, again, just used low-tack tape to attach it to the front of that card, that grey card panel. And when I unclog my glue, I will go ahead and attach these little stars down directly onto that grey card panel. So, as I say, I'm just using this kind of as a bit of a stencil, as a bit of a guide to where to put the stars so that I can lay them out evenly. And what I'm doing in between kind of putting each one down is just lifting that star grid panel up again so that I can make sure it's not attached, it doesn't get stuck down. So I'm not going to show all of this, I'll just show a little bit just to give you the idea of what I've done. So just attaching each one down through that card panel to make sure that I get them lined up. I'm not too worried about getting the stars in exactly the same spot as they were in when they were cut from the paper. I'm not too worried about the patterns being out of sync or anything like that. I'm just kind of popping them down willy-nilly. And now I'm going to remove that tape and lift this kind of stencil off, and there you can see, so I've got my stars laid out perfectly exactly where I want them for my two different card fronts. And now I'm just going to place down my little agenda images and make sure that I don't double up, so I don't have two of the same on one card panel. And then I will go ahead and attach them down. So as I say, this is a really quick and easy way to make two cards for the price of one, if you like. So I've just used one piece of that pattern paper. I've used the negative pieces to create that grey card background, and the main piece for this one with the sage green background. So yeah, it's been quite easy to do. I did go ahead and glue that star grid down properly with some glue. I've gone ahead and taken some top folding card bases, stamped a sentiment inside, along with a couple of the little hamster agenda images. I popped my little hamsters up on some foam tape just to give them a little bit of dimension. And now it's just a case of gluing those card fronts down to my card bases with some liquid glue, and I'm using my Lawn Fawn liquid glue for that, just to make sure it's adhered down nice and strong. And yeah, as I say, a nice, quick and easy way to make a couple of cards. I've made these birthday cards, but these little agenda images, they work for pretty much any occasion. And these mini everyday messages have pretty much every occasion covered with the sentiments that they have in those stamp sets. So you could really make any kind of card. Now I'm just taking my Lawn Fawn clear glaze pen. It was a little clogged, so I've used a pin to kind of unclog it. It did kind of come out a little bit gloopy, but I'm just adding a little bit of clear glaze to the balloons, the strawberries, the sweets, the hearts, kind of anything that, you know, might add a little bit of dimension and shine. So I've gone ahead and done that for all of my little images. I don't know that you can see it very well on camera there. It just adds a little bit of shine, something a little bit extra. And that's it, cards done. As I say, nice and quick and easy, a great way to kind of stock up on cards if you kind of need some in a hurry. And it's just, yeah, I like these little images. I have a lot of fun with them. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Do please let me know what you thought. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and please do subscribe to my channel. I'd love to see you come back. Take care.